Okay, so check out the difference in this sound and now this sound. All right, now I used the same amount of air for each example. I didn't change how hard I was blowing at all. So it wasn't just that the sound was louder, it's that with the second example, as you probably heard, the sound was fuller. And that's because the reed was allowed to vibrate more. So I don't know about most of you out there, but I came up playing the saxophone in middle school band class, playing, in wind ensemble, also played in wind ensemble in high school. But the way that we were taught back then and is often still taught in schools, and this is not wrong, by the way, this is just the way it's done, and for very good reason, the way that you set your wind ensemble or your solo repertoire classical saxophone embouchure that you need to play in a wind ensemble or to play the Creston Sonata to get that classical sax tone is you say ooh, drawing the corners in tight, and then you curl your lip over your teeth. You stuff that lip in over the teeth, forming a nice little cushion for the reed. So corners tight, ooh, or whistle shape, lip way back over the teeth. And of course, the top teeth go on top of the mouthpiece. So that's how I was taught to play the saxophone. And that's what gave me that first sound that you heard, which is not a bad sound, but it's a very controlled, you could use the term muffled or stifled sort of sound if you're comparing it to the second example, which is more of a jazz sound. Now, I'm often asked in lessons by students who want to play jazz and get more of a sound like on alto, Phil Woods, Charlie Parker, Cannonball Adderley, Kenny Garrett, players like that. They want a jazz alto sound. Or tenor players that want to sound like Dexter Gordon, Sonny Rollins, John Coltrane, Michael Brecker, Chris Potter, players like that have just a really big, rich, full-bodied tenor sound. Well, that's the answer, or that's one of the ways that we can easily start going about having a really full, not just loud, but full, vibrant, rich jazz saxophone tone, is to free the lip. Take a look at some of these close-ups of the greats and their embouchures, specifically the bottom lip. Some are rolled out pretty far, some are out just a little, and some are just kind of in their natural position, but none are rolled back into the mouth over the teeth. And just for comparison, let's look at a few pictures of some renowned classical saxophonists. These are also phenomenal players, but obviously with a different approach to sound and embouchure. You can see there, or hopefully you can see, I did my best to zoom in, that the embouchure is forming more of a tight seal around the mouthpiece, and that none of their bottom lips are out to any significant degree. This embouchure does have its advantages, specifically with controlling things like vibrato and softer dynamics. I personally find those to be easier with a more classical embouchure. Now, I'm definitely not saying that all classical saxophonists play with a super tight embouchure, or that all jazz players play with the same lip-out embouchure. There are many different gradations and subtle variations, and embouchure is a very personal thing once you get past the generalizations. It's generally believed among all players that puffing your cheeks is bad, although some great players do that too, and that your top teeth should always rest on top of the mouthpiece, although the double lip embouchure does kind of contradict that. And whether it's in or out, the bottom lip should always cushion the reed. The reed shouldn't touch the teeth. But after that, it's kind of up to you to get the sound that you desire. It's something you should spend some time figuring out, because you don't really want to be changing embouchures all the time, at least not drastically. That's not really going to work, in my opinion. You need something pretty consistent to really develop your sound. And some of that process may involve you figuring out what kind of music you really want to focus on. What I am suggesting in this video, though, is that if you're not getting a big enough sound, or if you want more of a full and rich sound with a jazz quality to it, a sound that opens up more of the harmonic spectrum of color, try letting that bottom lip go a little bit and see what happens. I just remember the enormous sense of freedom that I found when I started playing jazz, and I learned that I could be more neutral here. More just natural, not conforming to any particular shape, and specifically not rolling my lip back over my teeth. Just letting my lip be, let it be. Don't touch it. Free the lip, right? Now that doesn't mean you have to let it pooch out like that or do something else weird. You just kind of keep your face as it is. Let your lip be where it is. It can still be a cushion for the reed. Players like Jerry Bergonzi and Dave Liebman refer to this as embouchure neutrality, I think. You know, like Jerry Bergonzi says, you just put the horn in and blow. And that's an oversimplification, but that's basically it. Of course, you need your top teeth on top of the mouthpiece, and you don't want to puff your cheeks. But the difference is quite obvious, and as I said before, I'm not really blowing any harder. I'm just changing the embouchure. I'm just relaxing a little here at the corners and letting the lip out. Just neutrality, just letting it be. So for those of you out there asking, how do I take a step to immediately get more of a jazz sound, regardless of whatever saxophone you play, whether you play alto, soprano, tenor, bari, free the lip. Just kind of take more of a neutral approach to your embouchure, and that's going to do it right away. Now, when you do it, you might find at first that it feels a little bit harder to control without that lip and the corners and everything dampening the vibrations of the reed, because that's what the classical ooh embouchure is doing. It's really forming that tight seal and dampening the vibrations of the reed. That's why the jazz embouchure is giving me a much bigger, fuller sound, because the reed is literally vibrating more. But you might feel a little out of control at first. But just a few days of playing long tones, playing your scales, exercises, and tunes with that new embouchure, and just practicing, holding all the muscles in place and stabilizing the sound, I think you'll find that it'll start working for you pretty quickly. And if you're anything like me, you'll feel kind of a sense of freedom, because that reed will just go from this to that, open up, start vibrating more, and you'll sound like yourself. That's what the embouchure neutrality thing is really about. It's not doing anything radical here with the muscles or the shape of the face. Just let it be and let it be you. Now, of course, we need, firm cheeks here. We don't want to puff out like that, and we want to keep our teeth on top of the mouthpiece. But just making that little adjustment here, really going to open up your sound. So there you go. Free the lip. Free the lip. That's one way you can immediately get more of a jazz sound without changing your equipment, your setup, your reed, or anything. Free the lip. Just let that lip out. Let it be. Don't tuck it way back in over the teeth. Enjoy it.